Chapter 35:14. At the same time, Harmen, who was already prepared and intended to fight Charlie with all his might, saw that Charlie was unprepared and said with a cold smile, "Kid, why aren't you mobilizing your internal force? Are you not going to resist?" The most powerful point of a martial artist was having internal force, and with the enhancement of internal force, their body strength, agility, and striking strength would all increase geometrically. It was because internal force was the martial artist's origin power, so every martial artist had to transport internal force to their hands and feet before attacking in order to exert the strongest combat power. However, Harmen did not know that Charlie did not need the so-called internal force at all. At this moment, his body was filled with spiritual energy, and this kind of energy was an existence that martial artists could not even touch. So, he yawned and said to Harmen, "You are really too inquisitive. If you want to fight, just fight. What are you yakking about in one sentence?" Grass. Harmen was humiliated by Charlie in public. He was already extremely angry and said through clenched teeth, "I'm fucking kind enough to let you make the first move, but you still don't fucking appreciate it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for not being merciful." As soon as the words left his mouth, Harmen immediately attacked Charlie. The strength of a 6-star martial artist is not a cover. Harmen suddenly struck. His body was so fast that everyone on Charlie's side could not even see it clearly. Very fast speed with very strong strength, this punch even made a sound of breaking air. At first glance is fierce. This is the power of the 6-star martial artist. Luther, a 4-star martial artist who only needs to look from the depths of the heart, cannot help but be filled with despair. The ninjas of the 4 great families, at this moment also completely frozen. Just one action of Harmen, the strength displayed, has exceeded them by more than one level. Everyone immediately looked at Charlie. They wanted to know what kind of method Charlie was planning to use to deal with such a fierce attack. However, beyond everyone's expectations, Charlie did not move at all. Even though he saw Harmen's right fist fiercely attack Charlie's chest. The breaking sound of the heavy fist was like a whistling cannonball, causing everyone's expression to tighten. Seeing him exerting all his strength, Joseph was afraid that he would kill Charlie with one punch, so he subconsciously shouted, "Harmen, leave him." Joseph wanted to say leave him alive, but before he could say the word life, he was immediately stunned by the sight before him. Only to see Harmen's right fist had by now struck a full force blow, and suddenly stopped at a position less than 20 centimeters from Charlie's chest. Neither the people behind Harmen nor the people behind Charlie saw Harmen's right fist, which had been tightly grasped by Charlie with one hand. And at that moment, Harmen's expression was already appalled. On his fierce face, a 3-year-old childlike astonishment and trepidation appeared. He couldn't understand why his full-strength strike would be so easily grabbed by Charlie. And what was even more outrageous was that the moment he was grabbed, the force of thousands of pounds gathered on his arm disappeared out of thin air. This feeling is like a person jumping from a height of 10,000 meters. As the acceleration of gravity becomes stronger and stronger, the speed and strength also become greater and greater. However, just when the speed and strength reached the extreme, the whole person suddenly fell into weightlessness similar to that in space. The big difference between before and after is simply subverting common sense. Everyone, including Joseph, were also shocked beyond addition. Anyone can see that just now Harmen's punch was 1,000 pounds strong. Joseph was even afraid that his punch would shatter all of Charlie's internal organs. However, this is comparable to the attack of Mars hitting the Earth, but was silently dissipated by Charlie with a single lift of his hand. This is simply unimaginable. Everyone there still does not understand. Why? Charlie's contemptuous smile, to Harmen, he coldly shouted, "Waste. I see that you are also a big man. Why are you still as weak as a snail? Hurry up and use all your mother's strength for me. Come again." Chapter 35:15. Who would have thought that such a change would happen on the spot? Who would have thought that the full force of a 6-star martial artist strike, in Charlie's eyes, could only end up with such an unbelievable evaluation as weak as a woman? Harmen couldn't even care about his anger. He just stared dumbly at his own fist and muttered, "This is impossible. This is never possible." Joseph was also confused. Although he couldn't figure out how exactly Charlie had done it, he had realized that this Charlie was in no way simple. And at this time, the Wade family, as well as the people who had come to help Charlie, were equally shocked, but deep inside, they had already started to cheer. A six-star martial artist, who couldn't even do anything to Charlie, this proved that Charlie did have the strength. Morgan at this time also does not care about his usual dissatisfaction with Charlie, whispered to Andrew, his father, Charlie, he really knows martial arts. I see that this person cannot touch him at all. Andrew nodded repeatedly, his expression had been much more relaxed, and spoke, so it seems that this boy Charlie has some real skills. Saying that, Andrew hurriedly instructed in a low voice, observe again, if Charlie can really handle the cataclysmic front, hurry up and hide the morning clothes, do not be discovered. Xiong Xuan was also very excited at this time, he looked at Charlie's side face, his mind recalled Changjing's vigorous, cross-armed appearance back then, unconsciously, his eyes were already filled with tears. He could not help but feel, back then, the Wade family did not dare to follow the Changjing together, who was trying to fight a pig, so he angrily left, and finally died in another country. For this nearly 20 years, my heart has been very remorseful. Now, seeing the way his son stood in front of the Wade family and the Wade family's ancestral tomb, standing on his sword, made me see the shadow of Changjing again. Perhaps, this also means that this old bone of mine will give way to him when the time comes. At this moment, the other people of the cataclysmic front were also unable to understand the scene in front of them. One of them, a black-skinned man, asked Joseph in a low voice, Supreme Commander, the strength of the white-clothed Tiger King is still above me, and that strike he just made was indeed very impressive. How exactly did that guy across us defuse it? Joseph's expression was grave. How did he resolve it? He did not know. He only knew that Harmen this time was in danger. And he had promised in front of his own parents, as well as the heavenly spirits of Charlie's parents, that no one from the cataclysmic front could ever come forward to help. This also meant that Harmen had to face Charlie alone. So, he immediately yelled at Harmen, make sure to go all out. Harmen's expression almost twisted as he murmured in his heart, I just gave my all. Am I really allowed to fight him to the death? Charlie saw that Harmen had been dumbfounded and could not help but frown. Immediately after, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped Harmen on the face, saying in a cold voice, what the fuck are you dumbfounded for? I told you to come again, didn't you hear me? Harmen was dumbfounded by this slap. Charlie didn't use much strength, but the insult was extremely strong. Chapter 35:16. Harmen did not react at all and just let this slap come up. Naturally, he was humiliated and indignant. So, he took 2 steps back and roared in anger and shame, I'll kill you. After saying that, suddenly his body sank, his bones made crisp sounds one after another, and his internal strength suddenly boiled like a boiling pot, quickly running to both arms. Seeing this situation, Joseph's expression was immediately astonished. He knew very well that Harmen was really desperate. Because, what he was using now was the strongest move in his martial arts technique, the Divine Tiger Fist, the Divine Tiger out of the mountain. The reason why Harmen was called the White Tiger King was because of the practice of the Divine Tiger Fist. Among the Divine Tiger Fist, the most powerful attack was this Divine Tiger out of the mountain. Its greatest feature was its ability to quickly raise one's internal strength by at least 50%. However, this technique was not something that could be used casually. This is because this kind of drastic overdraft will bring strong repercussions to the user. Likely, the body would need many days to slowly repair, and during this repair process, the user could only exert half of their own strength. In the heavy case, it will cause the user's cultivation to drop, and it may even take a year or 2 to catch up with this part of cultivation. Therefore, this move, the Divine Tiger out of the mountain, is Harmen's life-saving technique, unless it is life-threatening, must go all out to fight, otherwise will never easily use it. At this time Harmen even directly used this move, it is clear that he has decided to fight with Charlie to the death. Moreover, Joseph knew very well that the strength of Harmen's move was so strong that even he did not dare to take it head-on, otherwise he would most likely be seriously injured. If Harmen still couldn't take Charlie with this move, then it was basically certain that Charlie's strength was even higher than his own. than today, even if they kick the real iron plate. At this time Harmen is also regardless. Charlie's humiliation of him has far exceeded his mental capacity. Insulting him is just, and even directly slapped him, and in front of all the core members of the Cataclysmic Front, this face, he had to die to get back. Charlie also felt the changes in his body within a short period of time, and found that the internal force in his body had increased tremendously in an instant. However, Charlie remained unmoved. Because, even if a mole is strong, it is still a mole. At this moment, Harmen's body bones were powerful internal force commitment suddenly soared, as if the whole person instantly swelled a body shape, even the body of mourning clothes were propped up countless mouths. When everyone was dumbfounded, Harmen suddenly bowed his body, like a fierce tiger descending a mountain, and rushed towards Charlie. Speed, strength, then the punch just now, much stronger. The people behind Charlie, before they can regain their senses, they feel a strong wind wrapped in sand and soil blowing towards them. The people have subconsciously closed their eyes, but even so, the tiny grains of sand hit the face, like a pain. In the crowd to wait for the gust of wind to pass, ready to open their eyes to see what happened, they found that the repeat of the same scene just now. Charlie once again grabbed the fist of Harmen. And, this time, Charlie used only one hand to grab both of Harmen's fists. All these people behind Charlie did not see his action just now and did not know how exactly he did it. But all of this, Joseph, as well as the commanders of Cataclysmic Front behind him, saw everything clearly. Just now, Harmen's fists came out like a fierce tiger and pounced on Charlie. But to his surprise, his original thundering fists, in front of Charlie, were as powerless as a 3-year-old child's tender fists. Charlie just easily fished, then grabbed both of his fists to a halt. A second ago, Harmen was a fierce tiger hunting with all his might. And a second later, he went from a predatory tiger to a pet cat whose master had a death grip on both front paws and could not move at all. Charlie raised his eyes at this time and sneered, "I heard that you are called the White Tiger King. I thought you were really a tiger, never thought. You're even worse than Hello Kitty, you're really a waste of a waste." Please subscribe to my YouTube channel Salvamanti Family for new updates. Thank you very much. Keep safe everyone.